If you take Israel's attitude from Romans 9 and run it to the nth degree, what happens? You say, well, you'll end up under the performance of the law. Yes, but you'll do something else. And this is the great tragedy. I think we've forgotten that faith in Jesus is about accessing the life of God on the earth. What did Jesus say he came to do? Lost sheep of the house of Israel, I'm going to chase him down. But then what did he say he came to do for everyone else? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have what? Everlasting life. Folks, Jesus isn't making you a promise of what happens when you die. Jesus is making you a promise of what starts happening when you believe. You see, what happens when you die, that's in the Father's hands. He's the one who lives in the realm of the Spirit. He's just going to bring you into that realm with him. I leave that completely up to him. I haven't been over there, so I'm not qualified to talk about it. I'm always amazed at how preachers and authors are qualified to talk about a place ain't none of them ever been. That's like writing a guidebook about Rome and you ain't went yet. You know? Like, here's what you should do the first day you get there. You go, how many times you been there? Well, someday I'm going. So I'm not buying your book. I'm going to maybe wait on the guy that just went. So I don't know what all of that looks like over there, but I do know that Jesus believed you could access the life of the eternal while you were on the earth. How do I know that? Because he said at Lazarus' tomb. Remember this? Lazarus is dead. And Jesus says, though a man be dead, if he believe in me, he can live again. He can live. Well, how can a dead man believe? He must not be talking about Lazarus' kind of death. He must be talking about the centurion's kind of death. The guy who's dead to who God is until he sees Jesus. And then when he sees Jesus, he goes, oh, I believe in that. And Jesus said, that's the guy that gets to access the heart of my Father. And he gets to do it while he's alive, because I have come that you might have life and that you might have it after you die. Nope. I have come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundant. After you die, that's in God's hands, and I believe his hands are capable. I believe he loses none that have been put into his hand. That's quoting Jesus. But I want to live now, man. I want to take a look at Jesus now and say, that's the life I get to leave on the earth. And I don't want to stack up what I did this week to earn it, because it's going to be pitiful. And you know what? No matter how good your week was, you're going to get outdone. Because if the bar is performance, then someone's just always going to set it higher. Do you know that? Have you ever looked, do you watch the Olympics? I'm infatuated with the Olympics when that happens. I mean, I'm glued to it. I think it's amazing. But I love that every year, every 4 years, they put up all the records. Okay, it's like sprint time. So it's the 100-meter dash. And they go, here was the time in the 1946 Olympics. And the guys look like they're jogging compared to these dudes. Because this guy, the firing gun goes off and this guy's running so fast you can barely see him. And then they put up the old grainy black and white photo, guys in little bitty shorts, and they're all standing like this, and then the gun goes off and you kind of go, wow, I mean, they were running like almost half speed, and they were the fastest people in the world. And you go, what happened? The bar always gets bumped when the performances are the measuring stick for success. That's our nature. So if you want to get with God based on how you do, you're one young whippersnapper sprinter away from not being as good as you think you are. That's just the way this works. Thank God that's not the way the kingdom works, where it's all based on Jesus' standard of performance for us. That's good news. Acts chapter 13, verse 46. Paul and Barnabas grew bold and said, it was necessary that the word of God should be spoken to you first. He's talking to the Jews from verse 45. It was necessary that the word of God should be spoken to you first, but since you reject it and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, behold, we turn to the Gentiles. We're in the first generation past the cross. And what's Paul's message to Israel? You've been so infatuated with your own performance for so long, you've judged yourselves unworthy. I know now why I did all that everlasting life work. It was groundwork for this thought right here. You've judged yourselves unworthy of the life of the everlasting. Because if all you do is look at your performance, you're always going to come up short. And you're going to end up feeling unworthy. And Paul said, because you're unworthy, we're going to turn to the Gentiles. Why? Because according to Romans 9, the Gentiles won't count themselves worthy or unworthy based on their performance. They'll just believe. And you know what? That's how Christianity spread around the world. Now, what happened is we come in and we poisoned the water with post-conversion performances to maintain your salvation, to maintain your favor, to get God to bless you, all kinds of stuff. Any of you come up in a salvation where after you got saved, it was hard to stay saved? I did. Well, don't be jealous of me. It wasn't as fun as it sounds. I came up in one where you gave your heart to Jesus and then it was turmoil to get home. It was like, I don't think you've done enough. Get back up here and get saved again. I got saved every time we went to church. I got saved every time. I put it in quotes because I went up there and did the same thing all over again every time. So I need a fresh take. I need to see if it'll take this time. I'm going to do better. And make a bunch of promises to God, and go out and mess them up. And you go, man, what kind of lifestyle were you living? I came to Jesus when I was 6. So imagine how bad I was living, is my point. Just a little hell on wheels, obviously, right? 6 years old, and then every subsequent time I came into church, felt like I had to get resaved. Now, what in the world was a 6-year-old out doing that he felt like that's just it, nothing, because there's no good reason why you lose what you didn't pay for until you start thinking you have to pay for it. And then you don't even have to do anything. You can be a 6-year-old kid in the first grade and then next Sunday be convinced 6-year-old kid's not saved anymore. I don't even know what I did this week. Doesn't matter because there's that perpetual cycle of I got in the way. I should have done this. I didn't do this. And that'll haunt you and it'll stay with you forever and forever. It's why I meet people all the time who have PTSD of religion. They're adults, but they remember back when they were kids. And it's like post-traumatic stress disorder, man. They got beat up and condemned, and they're like, I'm never going to church again. I'm not going to have anything to do with the Lord. You say, well, how do you win them? You don't try to win anybody. You just live the life of God in front of people. And if you live the life of God in front of people enough that you show them that it truly is possible to both love and be loved, that's your only hope. Because that's what Jesus did. That was the only hope he had. Even Jesus didn't twist arms and make people come home. He simply said to them the love of his Father, expressed to them who he was.